Okay, today let's just see how sharp we really are. Welcome to the Hideout, boys and girls. Today we're going to see about sharpening something, beginner's level, okay? But before we do, make sure and click subscribe, click the little like button, click the little ringy dingy so you get your notification. Check us out at sgt1911.com. Okay, beginning knife sharpening, and what I'm going to call beginning knife sharpening. A lot of you guys, this may be old hand to you and you may have moved past this, but there's going to be some people out there that have not. So this is where we're going to focus, but everybody can learn something, okay? So I'm going to go through just a little bit of things that we need, a little bit of technique, by all means, not all inclusive. There's other things out there, but I'm going to caution you about a couple things as we go along. You know, when you're starting to learn to sharpen knives, you don't want to go get your very nice knives. Get something out there that you've had for a while. It lays in a toolbox, it's in the trunk of the car, in the bed of the truck, and learn to sharpen on some of these things. Don't take an opportunity to screw it up. You see what I'm saying? Start with something easy and go along. As you progress and learn more and more, you'll become an experienced knife sharpener, a very experienced knife sharpener, maybe even a professional knife sharpener, and make a little money on the side doing it. But I'm going to go through some things we need, and we're going to talk about number one. To me, in my mind, my grandfather taught me how to sharpen knives. I do it old school. To me, old school is better. I can buy electric things, but if you ever screw up with an electric knife sharpener, throw the knife away. You're done with it. Now you just use it as a pry bar, and you know how that works. Number one thing in my mind that you need to have when you sit down to sharpen a knife is time. You need to have plenty of time to sit and sharpen the knife. And I'm going to tell you why as we get there. Next thing you're going to need to have, first aid. Why? You're a beginner. Even somebody like me who's been doing it for 40 years or more occasionally needs a little of this liquid skin. Yeah, I admit it, I do. Now we're going to get to some important things. What we're going to need, we're going to need a sharpening stone or sharpening stones, multiple. And now let's talk about why right here. The edge of a knife gets dull. It can be a knife that's been very, very sharp, or it can be one that's very dull. The duller it is, the more coarse or rougher the stone you need to start with. You polish it until that gets to feeling pretty smooth. But you remember, it's a rough stone. Rough on rough feels the same. If you put rough on smooth, it feels rough. So when you get to polishing a little bit with a rough stone, then you move to a finer stone. The finer stone, the sharper the edge. We're going to talk some more about that. You can have Arkansas hard stones. You can have sandstone. You can have diamond stones. You can have porcelain-like material. You can have all kinds. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get stones made out of. I like the diamond stones. Now, they don't have to be diamond stones, but you need a diamond stone, or any stone that you get needs to be big enough size. If you get like an Arkansas stone or a sandstone, you'll notice some of them that are old, they got a bevel in them where they've been used so many times. Get rid of it. Only use the flat stone. If you don't have a flat stone, you're trying to rub something straight on a round stone, you're going to end up with a round blade. Let's don't do that. I use these right here. These are Smith's diamond stones. The orange one, I think the other one's maybe a coarse one, and then the other one is a finer one. And that's what I'll do. I'll start with one and move to the finer. But I sharpen my knives often enough. Very rarely do I ever use a coarse stone because I never let my knives get that dull. I always kind of touch them up every once in a while and you won't have a problem. So these are sharp, or coarse and a fine, and then I get to something like this where you'll see the grit on this thing is like 3,000 and then 8,000. Very, very fine, very fine. Now here's what I want to warn you about. I want to caution you on your stones. I use water on all my stones, or dry, mostly water. What will clean off the stone? Water. You set it under the faucet, let it run, you'll see this black stuff, which is residue from your knife blade, just wash away. You can put oil on a stone. Here's a problem about putting oil on the stone. Some people will sell you oil with the stone. If you ever put oil on a stone, you can never use it with water. Think about that. Oil and water don't mix. It won't hold. No longer will it hold water. So you just need to have water. Or a stone that you will always only use oil with. And that's pretty much it. Now, next thing we've got a little bit of first aid kit. We got time to sit and do it. And while we're going to talk about that is I'm going to show you. After we get all of our equipment ready, we got time, we got our stones, now we got to get our knife. Get the knife you want to sharpen. Like I said, we're talking about beginning knife sharpening here. Some of you guys already know how to do it, but we're going to start slow and eventually move up. This is a knife here that's probably $3 made in China pocket knife. Fine to start with. Now let's talk about the knives just a little bit. If a knife sharpens really fast, it's also going to dull really fast. Soft steel. If you get a knife that just really holds an edge really good, you get it from the factory, you open a box, you order it, it comes in a sucker, will show you the hair on your face. You know what? It's good hard steel. It's also going to sharpen good and hard. You're going to sit for a long time getting this knife started. So we got to have the time to sit and do it and not get in a hurry. Now, why do we not get in a hurry? There's more. Knife blades can roll. So the edge of it will look something similar to this. This is my knife blade, excuse me, and you'll see that the blade's got a roll in the top. Maybe I hit it with something, or I hit a piece of bone or something else, and the blade kind of rolls over. It's got a roll on the blade. Knife blades can chip. So you got a jagged edge there. It might be micro, so small you can't even see it, but what you've got is a really, really micro chips and stuff in a blade. And this is more than likely what happens to most of us. That really, really fine edge has been taken off. So what we've got to do now is start to sharpen our knives. So I'm going to start with this blade here. Excuse me. And I'm going to show you what the secret to it is. The secret to sharpening a knife, old school ways, you want to hold your knife blade to about a 20-degree angle constantly. Now some people sit and do this. Some people will do back and forth or just do backwards. I don't think it matters. What you've got to do is stay consistent. And what I mean by consistent is consistent. So you can put your finger at a certain place and just go just like this. Now, for safety reasons, on the other side, you do it this. You pull it away from you. But you got to keep that 20-degree angle consistently. Now, if we had water on this, it might do a little bit better, but we're going to just keep a 20-degree angle. And we're going to do this until we think we get it sharp. And then we're going to move to a finer stone. When we get to the finer stone, we're going to do the same thing because we have to keep that angle on there. And we're just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And you're going to do this and go, damn, is that sharp? You may pick up a piece of paper. No, I'm not sharp enough. It ain't bad though. I mean, got a little tear in it, but it's not too bad. It's not just shaving, but it's cutting, and we just go back and we just keep doing it. But now what you have to remember is every time you cut something with that, you dull it just a little bit, especially on one of these cheap 10-cent knives that's got no steel in them. Remember that. When you get to sharpening a fine knife, the hard steels in it, some of these super steels that's out there, like this M930 I've been carrying around for that make knife and stuff, there's called a super steel. You get it sharp, man, you can't get it dull. But once you get it dull, you can't get sharp. And you just keep going. 20 degrees, 20 degrees. Now, here's where the inexperience gets you. I'm doing 20 degrees, and I've been sitting here with my clock, and I'm not paying attention to it. I'm just in my own little world and my thoughts. I'm not trying to watch a ball game. I'm not trying to do anything. And I'm doing 20, I'm doing 20, I'm doing 20. Man, I've almost got it perfectly done. And all at once, the damn cell phone ring, the dog barks, the wife calls, supper's ready, whatever it may be. You go from a 20 to a damn 30 or 40 or something. You just took all your edge off. And you have to start all over. You have to go back to the 20 and fix your mistake. Because what you did, you had this really, really good edge. And then when you tilted it like this, what do you do? It's no longer that perfect sharp edge. And what we got to do is get 20 on both sides. So you just bent it. You just almost put a roll in it. You took the edge off when you went from like 20 to 40 or something. Now, if you happen to go down to say 20 to 15 or 10, it really didn't do no damage, but it didn't do you no good. But if you increased it like this, you screwed it up. You got to stay at that 20 all the time. And you know what? That's hard to do, especially when you got a knife that's got really hard steel and you keep working with it and working with it and working with it. You know, I know these electric knife sharpeners are cool, but let's just say you have a custom made, I don't know, you have a family heirloom that Grandpa carried, a Randall knife Grandpa carried in World War II, and you want to sharpen it. Man, don't take the chance of putting that in an electric sharpener. Don't do it. You run it. You could potentially run it, and you know, how would you feel then? So let's just take that time and do the 20 to 20. Now, once we think we got it sharp, do we have it sharp? No, not really. We're almost there. But as we sharpen this, and we've got this stone rubbing on this metal, left behind are these really fine microscopic fibers. Think of a file, guys. If you're filing something and you look at the file and there are these little pieces of metal stuck in the file, and you have to take a steel brush and you clean your file out. We got little microscopic pieces of metal sticking on the edge of this blade, sticking on it. And you know, what does it do? It's just not quite clean enough. So what do we do now? Now we get the good old Sergeant 1911 leather strop, and we just take this strop and we can hang it up on a doorknob or a nail or in a tree or wherever you want, or even just lay it down. And we take this strop and we just go backwards. We turn it over and we go backwards. And we turn it over and we go backwards. We don't have to hold that angle here because why? That steel is harder than the leather. And just keep going backwards. And just keep going backwards. And you do that for some time. And you just keep doing it. You're dragging it away. You're not doing this. You'll cut into your leather and you can start dulling your edge. Drive it away. Away. And then eventually all these little fibers sticking out here to the side are gone. And you just got one extremely sharp, excuse me, one extremely sharp blade. Now this is my little Chinese blade, and you see it's getting there, but it's not quite what we wanted. So the thing is to do, go back and do it again. But remember, the harder the steel, the longer it holds the edge. The longer it holds the edge and the harder the steel, the longer it takes to sharpen. That's why you need that clock. You've got to have time to sit and do it. Now, one final thing I want to talk to you about is the stones. Everybody see these little pocket stones. And I don't know if you can see it. I think you can, especially if I put it this way. I'm going to hold it up there. Look at that small stone. See the light between them? Can you see the light between those stones? All right. This stone right here is no longer flat. You can see it on both sides. It's beveled here. It sinks in here, sinks in here. That stone there, maybe you sharpen fish hooks or something with it, but for all practical purposes, it's worn out and done. Now you can get other stones to rub against them and keep them flat. But most of the time a sharpening stone, something like this, is something I'm not going to use very often. This one right here, really hard, slick stone. Really, she does a good job finishing stuff off. Now, this is what I'm gonna tell you about these little stones. These big stones, they get pricier, but when you start talking a little stone like this, especially you beginners, I'm gonna hold this stone between my fingers and I'm gonna do this. And where's that blade going? Right towards the end of my finger. So more times than not, when you start doing these things, if you're not careful with these little stones, what's it gonna do? That's why we gotta have my first aid. You know, at least a box of shop rags, boys. Get it, and I'm gonna do this stuff, and because they're so small, it's not that they don't work well. They've been around probably for centuries. But the thing is, they're small enough, you have to hold the stone. And when you hold the stone, your finger is out there. And you'll cut your damn fingertip off. Small pocket knife, you know, real small pocket knife, a tobacco cutter or a toothpick or something like that, that will be fine. Anything that's of any substantial size, you need to move up and get a stone that's probably at least maybe 6 inches long. And that's it. And, you know, this is all trial and error. It takes practice. It's not something you're going to get the first time, although some of you may. Some of you may have enough hand-eye dexterity or whatever you want to call it that you can do it. If it takes you finding a way, like with your finger, if you'll look and see how my finger's up against the stone right here, maybe I could do it that way. But I've got to be able to get out here too, which means I've got to turn the blade at some point. So I mean, you've got to be able to try to hold that angle consistently. And that is the whole trick to it. Even if you go buy a machine, and a $1,000 machine, $3,000 machine, the whole thing is they fasten these things in there so the angle stays consistent. So if you can learn to master this by hand, you don't need a machine. You can get a better edge, you can do it yourself. It's something you can take pride in. You can do it whenever you want to. And you know, there's something to be said about just sitting and like whittling. I don't know if you boys ever done no whittling. Get you a knife and start whittling, then you have to sharpen it. There's something to be said about you just got the time to sit there and focus on sharpening a knife. You're not doing anything else. Just leave the cell phone in the house or whatever you need. Go out to the shade tree, sit on the porch, do what you want to do, and just sit and sharpen your knife. When you get done with it, put it aside, go get you another one and do the same thing. So until we get to sharpen again together, make sure and sharpen safely. Get a good sharp edge on it until we get together again.